that you get the opportunity to walk amongst the gods, but that's what's before us today. Our speaker is not only an SNP MP, but also has that rare distinction, not only having made very effective speeches in the House of Commons, but also having appeared on Top of the Pops, as he tells people repeatedly. As a member of Runrig, the very successful Scottish folk rock group, their CDs are available in all good shops. He told me to say that. He's also one of the leading lights of the House of Commons rock and roll group, unfortunately called MP4, and they don't apologise for that either. But more seriously, he's represented the interests of the music industry and of individual musicians very, very effectively for many years in the House of Commons, as well as making a signal contribution to the work of the SNP, both in London, internationally, where he has represented Scotland and also the House of Commons, but also, of course, and most importantly, in Scotland itself. Can you give a very warm welcome, croeso, Pete Wishart, Aelod Seneddol.
Well, thank you ever so much for that very kind introduction. And you know, I'm still asked what's the major difference between my previous career as a rock musician and my current profession as a Member of Parliament. And I think I can say with some degree of confidence, I'll never ever get an encore in the House of Commons. But thank you, Hal. This is fantastic. It's the first time I've been at the Plaid conference. I've been a colleague of these guys for 12 years, and it's the first time I managed along to a Plaid conference. And what a place to be. The Welsh Riviera here in Cardigan Bay. It's absolutely fantastic. I was given some advice when I came along here by my Westminster colleagues. The advice was, don't try and count the railings all the way along the seafront of Aberystwyth. Don't try and do a crash course in Welsh because you'll impress absolutely no one. And don't go out for a bender with Adam Price the night before you make your speech. And I think I've managed to observe nearly all. But what a bunch. The Taft triumvirate, your MPs at Westminster, menacing poor old David Jones and Stephen Crabb every time at Welsh questions, like Welsh rapiers right in there, getting stuck in. And what a fantastic job these three guys do on your behalf in the House of Commons. Unparalleled and unprecedented. You might know something. We're going to have a referendum. We're going to have a referendum in less than a year. And this is something else that you might know. We're going to win that referendum. Now, I don't know who will be making the fraternal address, as we do every year at the SNP and Plaid conference next year. It probably won't be me after this particular speech, but there'll be somebody that will be coming from the SNP to make this address next year. And when that person comes to make that address, that person will be making that address from an independent Scotland. And you know why we're going to win? It's very straightforward and very simple. Because it's a choice of two options next year, a choice of two futures that the Scottish people are going to have. They could have option A, the status quo. This is as good as it gets. The Tory promise of 2 decades of austerity, of illegal wars, of Trident. If that's what the Scottish people want, and that's what they want to settle with, that's what they will vote for. Option A, as good as it gets. Or they can decide to take a different type of future, to determine our own path, to have a nation shaped in our values and in our culture, to decide that we will, for a change, take control of our own resources, make our own contribution to the world, make our own way internationally. And colleagues, I know what option they will choose. They will choose to have Scotland in the Scottish people's hands, deciding the future for ourselves. That's the sensible path, and that's what the Scottish people are most definitely going to decide. You see, Scotland, like you, the SNP, like Plaid Cymru, believe that the people who care most about our nations are the people who live and work in our nations. Whether that's in Wales and whether that's in Scotland, we care more about our nations than the Westminster Tories do. Of course we do. And we see that day in and day out with the responsibilities that we have in the Welsh Parliament and the Scottish Parliament. When we get control, when we take charge of these responsibilities, we do them better. We do them better because we care more about them than the Westminster Tories, and that just makes sense. And of course we will do that. But we in Scotland still have the Tory government. We've got one MP, one Tory MP. We call him the Lone Panda. You've probably heard that one, haven't you? The fact that there's more giant pandas in Scotland than Conservative MPs. And it's great. At Scottish Questions, we tease him, ask him, well, what would the pandas say when he answers these silly questions? So that's what we've got in Scotland. And this democratic deficit goes to the very heart of our case, the fact that we still have a Tory government in Scotland. With independence, we will always secure the government we want. With independence, we won't have Tory governments with their one MP ruling the roost in Scotland. It will be our government, a government decided by the Scottish people. Now, it is the Tories that are the powerhouse behind Better Together. Even though they've been consistently rejected, it's they who run the campaign, it's they that supply what could loosely be called the intellectual rigour to the No campaign. Alistair Darling might lead the No campaign, but it's the Tories that pull the strings. But the real organ grinder, the real guy that pulls the strings, is the Prime Minister. And isn't it appalling that the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom won't debate with the First Minister of Scotland over independence? Colleagues, there's one word for this. It's a Scots word. It's a fantastic word. He's a big 30. Fair to debate with Alex Salmond, fair to come to Scotland to put his case. David Cameron, you're just nothing but a big 30, and the Scottish people know that you're afraid to come and debate with our First Minister. And he should be fair. Anybody would be fair to debate with Alex Salmond, for a start. But imagine having to stand there in these debates and try to defend Conservative rule in Scotland. No wonder they want to run a mile from trying to debate with our First Minister. But David Cameron, if you're not going to debate and you say that this is a matter for the Scottish people, then stay out of the debate. If you're not part of the debate, stay out of the debate. You and your ministers stay well clear of Scotland. If it's up to us to decide, we'll do that. We'll do that without Westminster's interference, because week after week we get these huge scaremongering reports telling us why we can't do it. Stay out if you've got nothing to contribute to debate. Stay out if you're not prepared to debate. And you know, the whole of Westminster has become a resource for the No campaign. They prepare the reports. Every single one of their select committees is doing something to try and denigrate Scottish independence. Down at Westminster, there's 650 members of Parliament. There's 850 or so members of the House of Lords. There's so many getting increased all the time that you can't keep track of how many members of the House of Lords we've got. It's actually, the House of Lords, I think, it's only the People's Congress in China that's actually bigger than the House of Lords just now. But anyway, there's something like 1,500 parliamentarians in all of the Houses of Parliament at Westminster. 1,500. 1,490 of those 1,500 parliamentarians are opposed to independence. There's 10 that support independence. There's 6 of us in the SNP, there's our 3 colleagues in Plaid Cymru, and we've got Daffyd Wigley in the House of Lords. I think that's quite good odds. They may have the quantity, but with our 10, we most definitely have the quality. So let's bring it on at Westminster, because we're looking very much forward to it. But even the Labour Party are starting to get embarrassed about their toxic bedfellows. They know just how bad the Tories are. So they've actually set up their own group. We've got Better Together, and we've got Labour for the Union and all sorts of things. I don't know if the Conservatives and the Liberals will be setting up their own groups, but we're going to have a whole range of them because they can't possibly work together. And then there's the no agenda. They refer to themselves as Project Fear. And doesn't that tell you absolutely everything about what they're attempting to do? They refer to themselves as Project Fear. And this scaremongering campaign has almost become a parody of itself. And I know we've got the Welsh version, because I take a bit of interest in what's going on here. We've got Prosiect Codioven. And it's the same things. They tell us in Scotland we'd be bereft of currency, we'd be bereft of European membership, we'd be separated and sent off in the middle of the North Sea. And Wales will be telling you that they'll take your valleys, they'll take your daffodils and steam engines. This is the sort of nonsense that we get. With Project Fear in Scotland, they've even been told that, our pandas that we're so proud of, they take them away. And there was one part of Project Fear. And they said it would be necessary to bomb our airports. This was true. An independent Scotland would be such a security threat that it might be necessary for the rest of the UK to bomb our airports. Can you believe that conference? What utter nonsense and drivel. Project Fear is the project that started to eat itself. It's so nonsensical. Now, I like a good scare story. I think they're fantastic. I think a lot of us in Scotland start to observe them and we just start laughing in the face of some of the nonsense that we get. I keep a little agenda, an index, and I call it the Casper Index after Casper the Friendly Ghost. So we get a good scaremongering index when it comes to this. On a light day, it might just be 1 or 2 on the Casper Index. But this week, we've had a full scaremongering assault. The Casper Index is up at 9.5. So keep a lookout for the Casper Index and find out where the scaremongering is going this week. But what the Unionists are really trying to suggest, and what they say throughout the scaremongering campaign, and what they do all the time, is to try and suggest to the Scottish people that we're too wee, poor and stupid to run our own country. Now, they won't say that directly anymore. They even know to tell the Scottish people they're too wee, poor and stupid isn't good campaigning tactics when they're trying to win a vote. So they just hint it. They hint it at every single part of their fear-mongering Project Fear agenda, that the Scots are too wee, poor and stupid to try and run their own affairs. What nonsense conference. We're actually told that we're burdened with our fantastic oil resource. That's what's in the papers all today. We discovered oil with the Norwegians. The Norwegians have got an oil fund of some £26 billion. The Scots have got food banks. We discovered oil at the same time conference. And this is the difference that we see between Scotland and Norway. So when they say that Scotland can't run itself, remind them it was the Scots that practically invented the modern world. Everything from Tarmacadon to television. Try saying that and try get the Scottish people to believe that, because we know that we can do it. And with Philip Hammond in Scotland this week telling us uniquely we couldn't actually defend ourselves, that the Scots regiments would still be English regiments. They even tried to say that they would annex Fast Lane a few months ago. But seemingly they're giving you a gift, isn't it? This is what Carwyn wants. He wants these weapons of mass destruction in Wales. What an ambition. Is he learning nothing from Scotland? The only ambition that Welsh Labour wants is to try and ensure that they possess the UK's weapons of mass destruction. And where we learn a lot about our Labour Party in Scotland, that tells you absolutely everything about the Labour Party in Wales. But what independence will do, colleagues, will be to transform our nation. And all the self-doubts will go, because we will be making our own contribution to the world. It will restore a national sense of self, and it will restore national pride to Scotland. We will demonstrate with our independence that we'll be no worse, no better, but equal to any other nation in the world. It will allow us that self-respect and dignity that will allow us to walk tall in the world. Just by being normal as a nation, we will show ourselves that we can be extraordinary as a nation. And this is our only chance. We never get this chance again. We'll never have a set of conditions like we've got just now, where we have a majority SNP government that can bring forward this referendum. It's our only shot. It's our only possibility. That's why I'm making an appeal to you guys to come up and help us if you can, because we'll never get this chance again. And I'll end with this. They told us back in the 1970s, when we appeared, that it was just a blip. The SNP went on to become the major opposition party in Scotland for the next 20 years. They told us that we'd never get our own parliament with full economic powers. We got our own parliament back in 1999. They told us that the SNP would never be the largest party in that parliament. We became the largest party back in 2009. They told us that there would never be an SNP majority. They even designed the Parliament's voting system so that couldn't happen. What happened, colleagues? We went on to win a majority in the last Scottish Parliament. Now they say they'll never, ever win a referendum. What do we say? We've heard it all before. We will win because independence is the aspirational choice, the positive choice, the choice that puts the future of Scotland in the hands of the people who live and work in Scotland. That's why we will win. I know a lot of people here will remember what Winnie Ewing said the day that we won our first parliamentary constituency in Hamilton back in 1967. It was "Stop the world, Scotland wants to get on." I could feel that world slowing right down in Scotland at the edge of the platform, ready to make sure that they embark on that journey. Winnie was absolutely right. The world will stop and Scotland will get on. That's why we'll do it. And what a prize, colleagues and comrades. What a prize if we win this. What we secure, a country of our own, an independent Scotland taking its place in the world. That is where we belong, and that is what we will secure. Thank you very much.